By the League of Women Voters of Bismarck-Mandan, the Bismarck Tribune, and is co-sponsored by Dakota Media Access. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that promotes the informed participation of all citizens in their government. The League does not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. All three candidates for Burleigh County Commission have joined us here tonight. Welcome. They are Jerome J.P. Mosier, Jerry Woodcox, and Brian Bittner. The audience is invited to submit questions using the index cards provided to them. Viewers at home may submit questions by calling 355-1312, the number indicated on the screen, between now and 8 p.m. tonight only, which is Wednesday, October 17th. That number again is 355-1312. This is intended to be a respectful exchange of ideas. Our purpose this evening is to provide voters with information about the candidates and their positions on issues that affect the people of Burleigh County. Now let's meet our candidates. You will each have 90 seconds to introduce yourself and tell us why you are seeking election to the Burleigh County Commission. We'll start with you, Jerome Mosier.
Well, Dot, thank you very much, and to the League of Women Voters of Bismarck-Mandan for hosting this fine event this evening. As many people know, I ran a couple years ago for a position on the Burleigh County Commission, and just to give a rehash of who I am and what I believe in. I was born and raised in Bismarck, North Dakota, attended grade school, junior high, high school here in Bismarck. Attained a Bachelor of Science degree from Dickinson State, and attained a Master's in Business from the University of Mary just recently. I am a United States Army officer with the North Dakota National Guard on Title 10 after being hurt in Iraq, and still serve in that capacity until my retirement comes up shortly. Throughout those years of the military, I've been through Army Engineer Officer Basic and Advanced Course, United States Army Command and General Staff College. I'm anti-terrorist, level 4 trained, U.S. Army Safety Officer, and a Federal Contracting Officer. Some of my past work history, of course, right now I'm still on active duty, just waiting to retire. I used to work for the North Dakota Association of Counties as a local government homeland security training and exercise program coordinator. And I understand what happens at the local level, and basically worked all of western North Dakota and dealt with the county commissioners, auditors, and other elected and appointed officials throughout western North Dakota. There's three things that I've been out talking to the constituents about, and I'm sure we'll get to those as we go through the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. Thanks for coming over from Mandan, incidentally, with the lousy weather we got. But thank you for the League of Women Voters, too, for putting this on. My name is Jerry Woodcox, and I've been a county commissioner for 12 years. My current portfolios are social services. I'm on that board. Buildings and grounds, veteran services, abandoned cemeteries, state's attorney, and Board of Health. And I was not going to run again. I've served 3 terms and been very active in doing that, spent a lot of time doing it. And we also, all of a sudden, had the flood of 2011. And 2011 has left us with a lot of unfinished projects, which I really want to see completed. And so that's why I'm decided to run again for one more term. We've got many projects along the river that have not been completed, and I want to get those done. We've also got a jail coming up. It's going to be a very tough sell. Nobody wants to buy a jail, but that's where we're headed. With the state of the economy and the activity in Burleigh County, it certainly looks like we're going to have that. We're in the process of building a new shop, and there's so many projects that we haven't gotten done that I want to get them done. So that's why I'm running. So I would appreciate your vote.
And now you, Mr. Bittner.
Thank you, Dot, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name obviously is Brian Bittner, Burleigh County Commissioner. I'm just finishing my first term. I'm not real sure why I'm running again, except that Burleigh County needs strong leadership, and I think I was providing that, especially during the flood of 2011 where I served as chairman. A lot of people asked me to run again, and I think that with the issues facing Burleigh County, that this is probably a good choice for me. I want to thank my family for putting up with my absence around the house, and I'd appreciate the citizens' vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. And now we'll move on to the questions developed by members of the League of Women Voters, our audience here tonight, and our viewers at home. To submit a question, please use the index cards provided on your chairs. Viewers at home can phone in questions again by calling 355-1312 between now and 8 p.m. tonight, which is Wednesday, October 17th. That number again is 355-1312. Candidates have not been given advanced copies of the question, and each candidate will be asked to answer every question. We will address the first question to the candidate who drew number 1, and after each candidate has responded, the second question will be addressed to candidate number 2, rotating the starting order of each question. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. Please comply with our time restrictions so we can get to as many questions as possible tonight. Our timer will let you know when you are down to 30 seconds, then 10 seconds, and finally stop. With that, we'll begin. The first question is going to Mr. Mosier. The Burleigh County Commission voted to eliminate its funding of the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association. What should the Burleigh County Commission's role be in job creation and economic development?
Well, I think there's several factors on what happened with the budget this year, and let me just start out with what I feel would help the county in making these decisions. First off, a strategic plan. A plan that sets goals and objectives for the county on where we're pulling this train forward. That assists our department heads with streamlining their operations, which helps the county move forward. It complements growth. What has become a little bit disconcerting for me is everybody, the commissioners have stated publicly, they don't know how to get their hands around this growth thing. And BMDA is a growth helper. Now, what's happened over the years and is becoming apparent is, and we'll probably get to it, but you can conservatively spend yourself into a corner and not be able to enhance the growth as it needs to happen.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Woodcox, same question. The Burleigh County Commission voted to eliminate its funding for BMDA. What should the County Commission's role be in job creation and economic development?
Thank you. I was not a supporter of the motion to eliminate BMDA. I'm a major supporter of BMDA and the Chamber of Commerce. I think that is the arm of the county government in our development. And we don't have a development department. We never have had, and I don't think we ever will. We have relied upon BMDA, and I've been a longtime supporter of it. Development does not come immediately. Development comes over a period of time. It takes 10 years or more to get projects to come to Bismarck or to any area. For us to stick our head in the sand because it's not a budget issue. It wasn't the amount of money. It was the fact that the majority of the commission, not myself, wanted to eliminate it because they didn't think they were doing a good job, and I was not a supporter of that. So I'm in favor of both the commission, the the Chamber of Commerce, and the BMDA.
And Mr. Bittner, same question. What does the commission plan to do to support economic development and job creation?
Well, the role of the Burleigh County Commission is not to create jobs and create economic development. The role of the Burleigh County Commission is to provide essential services for the citizens of Burleigh County, whether that's in emergencies or, the Sheriff's Department, social services, and those type of things. In regards to the BMDA, one of the concerns I had and the reason that we voted to discontinue the funding was over the last 4 years, I get a weekly update from the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association in the form of an email. And I have not seen one positive effort in Burleigh County, not a job created or a business brought here. I think that that's important to Burleigh County, but I think job creation is probably the role of private business, and economic development can be supported by the Burleigh County Commission, but not driven by the Burleigh County Commission. Thank you.
Next question, we'll begin with you, Mr. Woodcox. How much should the county control or direct residential and commercial growth in non-incorporated areas of the county?
Not in the incorporated ones, if they have their own development there, and other than that, Burleigh County Commission is their control of planning and development. That's the way the law is written. We have to do it. If there's any development going on, that's our job. If they have their own controls, we have no control over them. Our long-range plan, or our planning, takes care of development, but not for the ones that have their own. So if it's like Wilton has their own and Sterling has their own, but the undeveloped, it has to rely upon the county commission, and that's our job, and we are doing it.
Mr. Bittner, same question. How much should the county control or direct residential and commercial growth in non-incorporated cities within the county?
Well, growth in the area outside of the city is pretty much a function of private developers and people's choices. It's not up to the Burleigh County Commission to choose where developments happen and how they happen. It is important that we provide guidance in terms of the services that we can provide. However, I do believe that the landowners and the developers and the builders have a better handle on guiding that development. And I think that it's essential that we review our current comprehensive plan. And we're in the process of doing that and have been for quite some time.
And now you, Mr. Mosier, same question.
I guess, Dot, what I'd like to bring up to the constituents of this county is we have a master land use plan, excuse me, that is 1985 model. We are in 2012. We've had this past commission spend exorbitant amounts of money to have a master land use plan brought to the table and then rejected. And what needs to happen again, I live in an incorporated township. In the unincorporated areas, we still have to have a master land use plan or a comprehensive plan, which ironically has been tabled until after the election because nobody wants to eat the elephant. Eventually, we have to eat the elephant. We need to take those, go back to a strategic plan, get those department heads laser focused, get those other entities to bring the ideas to the table and get something out there we can use and give some guidance. I agree with Commissioner Bittner. There are some things that we can assist in making development, but with no plan, there is no way that you can control what is going on in the unincorporated areas.
Next question. We'll begin with you, Mr. Bittner. Burleigh County feels indirect pressure on its services from the oil boom, to the point that the county has added employees. At the same time, the commission has eliminated some long-time funding for schools and economic development. What actions should the county commission take to make sure it has the resources to meet the challenges generated by oil and gas development in the West?
Good question. Burleigh County does have the resources to meet the challenges that we're facing. The thing with Burleigh County Schools funding was a function of the position. I hold the portfolio for Burleigh County Schools, and the individual school boards and their presidents made it clear to me that the current position was a waste of money. And so what we're doing is working with them in order to find a more effective, efficient method of providing those services to the schools.
Mr. Mosier.
You know, I'm just going to echo what Brian says. It's a position that probably needs to be alleviated. We are in that position right now in my township. We have a small school out there that falls under the purview of the county school supervisor. But I think we're going to get absorbed into Lincoln and fall into the Bismarck area out in the Lincoln school. Not saying that's going to happen, right away, but down the road, that is a very large possibility. Schools, as we are feeling the impact of the development out west, there is no doubt about it. There are more people needing more infrastructure, needing more social services, and it will start to impact our county budget as we start going forward. And we need to come up with those innovative ways to ensure that we can fund it at the proper level that these constituents deserve and expect.
Mr. Woodcox.
Burleigh County is receiving a lot of overflow of problems. Education, the superintendent of the schools one I agree with. We should have eliminated, or should eliminate that, and we have. That was my portfolio at one time. But as far as the oil impact, we're getting it. We see it with our jail. I mentioned it before. We've got, our crime is up. We cannot do all of that ourselves as Burleigh County. We need assistance from the state. There's no other way we can do it. It's not fair for the citizens of Bismarck and Burleigh County to take on a $40 million jail all by ourselves when 50% of that is overflow from the oil business. We've just got a real problem, and we're going to have to address it. And that's one of the things I want to accomplish in the next year. We're already starting to look at a couple ways to do that, but we do need help from the state. There is no doubt about it. We can't, Burleigh County cannot do it on our own, and we should not be required to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Woodcox, and that provided an excellent segue to the next question. And I would like to remind those that are viewing and those that are in the audience to submit their questions for those vying for these county commission positions. You can do so by calling 355-1312 between now and 8 p.m. tonight, which is Wednesday, October 17th. That number again is 355-1312. We look forward to receiving questions from those viewers and audience members tonight. With that, we'll move on to the next question, and this I'll pose to Mr. Mosier. What's your position on the possibility of a regional jail serving Bismarck, Burleigh County, Mandan, and Morton County?
Well, Dot, this is going to be a complex issue that needs to be addressed. We have been talking about a new jail since Sheriff Berg ran for his position. And it goes back to what I keep talking about. The people with a plan win. Growth did not happen overnight in North Dakota. It came fast. The people committing malfeasance, the numbers are going up. And I think the county has done a good job in drug courts and helping out with those things that tried to stop or intervene at the beginning. We have a sheriff. He knows how to run a jail. I don't think we need a committee put together to tell the sheriff how to run a jail. That's why he has been elected by the local constituency. How are we going to get this thing funded? I don't think the state, I'm almost positive, is not going to drop $50 million into the lap of Burleigh County and say, build yourself a jail. Probably not going to happen. They may be able to help us with the laws to get the home rule charter a little faster, but somewhere along the line, the citizens of this county are going to have to make a tough decision on the jail.
Mr. Woodcock, same question.
The question was whether we should have a jail with the 4 political entities, and I've served on the committee that came up with that idea, the BMMB committee, for a couple, 3 years. And I personally favor a joint jail with all 4 entities. It only makes sense. It's going to save tax dollars. We had a study done, which we all 4 funded, and it came up with a joint jail, probably over here in Burleigh County. We have the land available out at our fairgrounds area. It's going to come. We've got to do it, and I favor all 4 entities. Mandan is having a straw poll in their election coming up. We are kind of waiting to see what that happens and see whether Mandan and Morton County want to come on board with us. If they don't, we're definitely going to have to go on our own and proceed, and we're going to do that. There's no doubt about it. There's a couple ways we're going to fund it, or attempt to fund it. Home rule charter with a sales tax would be one. Another would be a bond issue, which both methods will come up for a vote of the citizens, and I certainly favor that. They've got to have input on what to do, when to do it, and what kind of a jail we're going to have.
And now, Mr. Bittner.
A regional jail is the best economical thing that we could do for both Burleigh County and Morton County. It'll reduce the costs for both counties, and certainly that involves the cities of Bismarck and Mandan. Our concerns are the same as over in Morton County. I think that we're going to have even bigger concern as we move ahead. We are investigating and putting into kind of an all-of-the-above strategy, whether it's a bond issue, sales tax, help from the legislature. We've got plans in place for meetings with legislators, and that's something that we've already been doing. I myself met with the governor's staff concerning these issues. We know the causes and whatnot for what's happening there, and I think we're going to be proactive and continue to find solutions.
Thank you. Continuing on that topic of the regional jail, this question will start with Mr. Woodcox. Should Burleigh County pursue the home rule charter and sales tax to support the regional jail? If you could further comment on that.
Originally, my thought was, yes, that's the way to do it. A sales tax, countywide sales tax is to me, the most equitable way of doing it. The problem is we've done the research and we found out we can't have a special election to have a home rule charter to provide for the sales tax until we have a primary or a regular election. And that is almost 2 years from now. We can't wait 2 years. We have to do something in the meantime. That's where the bond issue comes into play. We're going to do two things. We're going to go to the legislature this year, see if we can change that law, that we could have a special election rather than wait the 2 years to have it for a general or a primary election. If that fails, then I think we will have to go for a bond issue, which takes 60% of the voting to proceed. So that's difficult, especially for a jail. Nobody likes to spend money for a jail. But it's something we're going to have to do. We got to do it. It's going to come.
Mr. Bittner, same question. Should Burleigh County pursue home rule charter and the sales tax to support the regional jail?
Yeah, I think it's one of the ways that we have to move ahead. Commissioner Woodcox was certainly clear in his description of it. That's a good way to spread the load rather than on the individual property tax payers in Burleigh County. We're being asked to pay the tab for what is essentially a statewide issue that's being focused into Burleigh County. It's the same is true whether it's a jail or our Burleigh County Social Services. However, for the jail, that would be one of the most economical ways, but like Jerry said, that's a long ways out, and our concerns are immediate. I think that the Burleigh County Commission is going to probably look at whether we do a bond issue or a mill levy increase, and then possibly replace it with the home rule charter and a sales tax if the citizens approve that.
And Mr. Mosier.
I hate to keep beating a dead horse. Home rule charter has been discussed in Burleigh County for a long time. For many years while he has served on the commission, in time that Commissioner Bittner's been on. I find it ironic that the areas in North Dakota that have home rule charter have been able to, as Commissioner Bittner said, spread the load, and Williston paid for a brand new jail in less than 5 years. That is something that needs to be looked at. The other part of the equation on the jail, and I'm going to go a little backwards on this, is we keep talking about the $40 million or $50 million for a jail. I haven't heard any candidate or any sitting commissioner right now going to tell us what we're going to do with the old jail. And what's the cost to renovate that? And who's going to pay for that? Are we just going to leave a jail in the courthouse? So that's something else. And that could add an easily $10 million to the tab they're already talking about. Once again, the man with the plan wins.
Next question, and this question was actually submitted by our audience tonight, and it reads as follows. What is your advice for managing an emergency situation like the flood? Is it looking at who pays the most taxes or something else? For that question, we're going to start with Mr. Bittner.
I don't think who pays the most taxes has anything to do with how you manage a flood. Managing the flood based on experience, had to do with the things that you're able to do and the amount of time you have to do them with. We knew full well that there were some real grandiose things that you could do to manage a flood. However, the time didn't allow for that. I think that in Burleigh County, well, I know that we did everything that was humanly possible in the amount of time that we had to respond. And now, moving forward, we have a lot of good things that we can do with the flood based on what we learned. And that's a big part of why I'm sticking around as county commissioner.
Mr. Mosier.
That was a great question from a viewer. I just want to go back over the leadership that I've had in the 32 years I've been in the North Dakota National Guard. I have been on statewide emergencies from flooding in Grand Forks all the way up to flooding in Bismarck, fires in Fort Yates. I've worked in the Joint Operations Center at the highest levels and watched those decisions be made, developing the courses of action of how we can help that. I've also trained first responders all across the state of North Dakota on how to respond to these emergencies. The point I guess I'm driving at is we have a creed in the Army, leave no one behind. Never leave your member behind. But there are tough decisions that need to be made in emergencies. And I think the commissioners did a good job. Could they have done better? Absolutely. It's what the situation is bringing to you, and also let the battle come to you so you can make the decisions to save the most lives, property, and save resources.
Mr. Woodcox, your response.
The battle was coming to us. It was coming quickly, and it was coming in a matter of hours. We were under the gun, and I think so was the city, and so was the state and the Corps, and we were all in a world of hurt. And we were getting updates on water releases from the dam in a matter of hours. We had to make decisions. We never ever considered the value of a property, whether or not we should try and do something to alleviate the flood. We were making decisions on where to put dikes, and we had to do it immediately. We didn't know if we had funding. We made a lot of tough decisions, and I'm very proud of everybody that worked with us. All the commissioners stepped up. We had meetings daily, if not hourly, on what to do and how to handle it, and I'm very proud of the way we did it. It's true we did not have a plan. Nobody had a plan. This was something that caught everybody with their pants down, and we've learned a tremendous amount. There's no way we haven't learned a lot. And while we've got these projects that we're in the mill right now, and we want to get them finished, and there was never a thought of what value of property or what value of homes we were trying to protect. We tried to do everything we could in the time we had with the resources available.
Continuing on the subject of the flood, this question is for Mr. Mosier. How far should the county go in providing flood protection?
Well, I think there's been quite a few discussions on the elevation. And I think the commissioners have come up with an elevation that they are comfortable with. To segue back a little bit on that emergency, I'm going to go back and sort of talk about Commissioner Woodcock's statement. We had to make decisions on the fly. We got caught with our pants down. Those things are being alleviated by the future plan going out, and we need to execute that. And we need to be very transparent on how the funds are spent and what the protection level that people can be expecting. They deserve that. But our last flood also happened over a 1-week time frame. We knew when it was coming. We just didn't know the elevation. That brought some duress. Now, I would like to see us go with that elevation, look at those areas, but still take that input from all the areas on what they are expecting for their flood, their flood preparations.
Mr. Woodcock, same question. How far should the county go in providing flood protection?
In the past 4 or 5 years, I think we raised the construction level of new construction in the floodplain twice, up 1 foot and then up another foot for new construction. That doesn't take care of the old construction. We are now in the process with our long-range plan on the flood to raise roads. Many of our problems were access to the areas that we that were underwater. And a lot of that was the roads were not high enough. We have several roads that the county's going to pay for, and the state and the Water Commission to raise those levels so we can take care of access. The county cannot provide for flood protection for each individual home down there. There's no way we can. We're doing some dikes. We got some potential dikes we're going to put in, but most of those are in a cooperative effort between the citizens and the water district. They're not county funded. I don't think property tax from the general county should pay for any flood protection on a certain area. We've got to rebuild the roads, build them up, because they've been deteriorated, and we don't know the whole consequences of that yet. But we've got to take care of the roads and to take care of access.
And Mr. Bittner.
Well, it's obvious the only thing we really can do is to take care of the access and those kind of things. We just don't have the resources in Burleigh County to protect every single home down along the river, and nor should we. A lot of people made those decisions on their own, knowing full well the risks. It was a very difficult thing for us, and for me personally, it was probably one of the most difficult decisions of my life to determine where we were going to put a dike, knowing that one citizen might be on the wet side and one citizen might be on the dry side. That was a very, very difficult decision. Looking back on it, some of the problems were access easements. We had the ability in certain cases to go in and put in flood protective works in a hurry. A lot of that was not able to be done because some people simply did not want it going through their backyard. We're not in a position where we're going to force people to accept flood protection, and we are going to raise roads, though.
Mr. Woodcox, this next question is for you. And again, I would like to thank the audience members for submitting it. Please call in with your questions before the end of this forum. The number to dial is 355-1312. Again, 355-1312 between now and 8 p.m. tonight, Wednesday, October 17th. Mr. Woodcox, how would you feel about creating a green zone for recreation in the floodplain, like Grand Forks did after buying back lots in their flooded plain after the flood of 1997?
I don't know where you'd create a green zone. There's homes all along the river. That's where they built. They built on the sand, and they built on a sandbar in a flooded area. There's a lot of low spots out there that I still wouldn't build in. I have no faith in the Corps, we could have a flood the next time. We could have a backup from the south. We could have an ice freeze, and we'd have floods again. So as far as a green zone is concerned, boy, I don't know where you'd put it, and I don't know how you'd fund it. You'd have to, if it was a new development, we can force developers to take a portion of their development and make it into a park, but that doesn't make it in a flood zone. I don't know whether that would be that good. Pioneer Park was under about 10 foot of water, so it'd be a real problem.
Mr. Bittner.
I think if we had the resources, that may be something that would be doable. I think Grand Forks had a lot more resources provided by the state and federal government for that purpose. There was repeat flooding, which played into that. Here in Burleigh County, one of the problems that we had as far as funding some buyouts and things like that had to do with most of those properties had never experienced a flood before. The rules in those kind of situations are clear. They have to have had repetitive flooding. And in the absence of that, we just don't have the resources to purchase those properties and turn it into a green space, no matter how well-meaning that might be.
Mr. Mosier.
I guess the way you have to look at Grand Forks, and I agree with what Brian has been saying over there, the commissioner is right. They had a wet side, dry side. And there was pretty much definitive boundaries on how that happened up there, and there were different resources available. One thing we could probably look at, once again, in a master land use plan is, by God, we're at an elevation down here where if it's unincorporated, you just aren't gonna build. And we're just gonna tell people that. And can that be turned into a green space? Absolutely. Can it be turned in, can we open it up for public hunting? Can we do all sorts of other things to create a better way of life for our folks in this in the county? Absolutely. But once again, it takes the leadership and the decision-making to say, we're not going to develop this area. I think what happened in this flood, we're probably stuck with what we've got, but there are opportunities out there to create some green space within the county. along the river.
Mr. Bittner, this next question is for you. Bismarck and Burleigh County's commissions have not always worked well together. What do you think, if elected, you could do to resolve conflicts on planning and public improvements between the city and county?
Well, I've been pretty active in that effort. We have had our disagreements, no doubt. Burleigh County has had some concerns about how development has happened out in the county. We've had enforcement-related issues. I think we've resolved those to a great extent. We recognize the importance of planning. Certainly, growth management is a big issue here. I think incidentally, it would probably interest you to find out that the Bismarck City Commission and the Burleigh County Commission actually get along very well. So I don't know how much of a conflict you're referring to, but I think that the commissioners, it was certainly very evident during the flood. There is very little conflict between them.
Mr. Mosier.
I think one of the big issues that causes the duress as people are thinking out there between the two commissions is this. One area that I feel the impact of being the treasurer and the road supervisor out in Apple Creek Township is, first off, I am not a fan of ETAs, okay? Then we start the push and the rub of who owns what and who's doing what to whom. As we get into planning and expanding Bismarck, there is no doubt in the constituents' minds out there that Bismarck is the big dog at the bowl. But we need to have that collaborative efforts and those open communication channels to talk about things like that. The other thing is when we talk about the push and the shove, especially in the ETA and for growth, is there is a morass of bureaucracy that has been created for the contractors and for people trying to do growth in this county. I just witnessed one where a gentleman spent 15 months to get a road approach. County, city, and township were all involved. That morass and that talking, it took me about 15 minutes to get the problem solved with phone calls and open communication.
Mr. Woodcox.
I've always been a supporter of cooperation with the city of Bismarck. In fact, I considered running for city commission at one time and changed my mind and became a county commissioner. We have got to cooperate with them. There's no doubt about it. Our planning department, we've had some problems with that. I agree with the ETA concept, the extraterritorial. I think that's a real difficult situation for those people that are living in it. But the city has 4 miles. I don't think 4 miles is, I think that's too much. I think 2 miles is plenty. Even 1 mile is enough. But we do need cooperation with them, and I've always been a supporter of BMDA and the Chamber of Commerce, as I mentioned before. That's a cooperative effort. The City Planning Commission has just hired another person dedicated to county issues, county permits and issues, and I want to give that a chance. They just came on board about 30 days ago, and I want to give that a chance for cooperation. We cooperate in many, many ways that people don't even realize, and we get along pretty well with the City Commission. I think they would have to agree with that.
Mr. Mosier, this question is for you. Again, thank you to the audience who is participating actively in this forum. The question reads, if elected, what would be your short-term and long-term goals for Burleigh County?
Very short term. The master land use plan has got to get done. The commission needs to get off dead center and make decisions, get it approved, and get it in the hands of the people so they know which direction we're going. We have spent, per Commissioner Woodcox's words, $300,000 to $400,000 on a plan that has not been implemented. It is 2012. Let's go. Second, I would work diligently to get a strategic plan done. After the last election, the Bismarck City Commission, within a year, had a strategic plan, and they have direction for the city. You cannot have a rudderless county out here not doing anything. Work equals success, and I will guarantee you I will work hard on those two issues Not saying I'll get them done, because no politician ever wants to be held to a promise, but I can guarantee you one thing, they would come up for a vote within a year.
Mr. Woodcox?
The comprehensive plan that we worked on a couple years ago and turned down, I was a staunch supporter of. I voted to put it in. We spent $120,000 with a firm out of Fargo. I thought it was a good plan. Certainly wasn't the best as it turned out, but I was definitely a supporter of it. We do need a long-range plan, or a non-comp plan. Ours was developed back in the 80s, and we are going to review that and see if we can adjust that. I'm not in favor of hiring another consultant firm to do that. I think that's a waste of money. Our plan with ordinances, and ordinances are where really the teeth of the plan is in. We update those regularly, and I think it's adequate. We definitely need a long-range plan, there's no doubt about it, and I certainly would support that.
Mr. Bittner, your short-term and long-term goals for Burleigh County if elected.
Almost immediately, my short-term plan would be to review the existing comprehensive plan. You'll need to understand, and unfortunately, maybe you don't, there's a difference between a land use plan and the comprehensive plan. We have a land use plan that has been developed, actually, I think 2006, 2007. So that part of it is not very old. It consists of a map that shows what the land use is expected to be in those areas. The comprehensive plan is something that more guides the process or provides residents with the expectations of growth. I've reviewed the existing plan at length, and I can tell you that the fact that it's old from '86 does not make it irrelevant in Burleigh County today. In fact, there's probably going to be limited changes to it when we review it at the County Commission. It is just simply not irrelevant because of age. Long range, we're definitely going to fix the jail issue. We certainly have to be concerned with social services concerns. And I get the stop.
Mr. Woodcox, this next question is for you, again submitted by a member of the audience. As the population has grown in Bismarck and Burleigh counties, there's more bike traffic on River Road. What can we do to make a softer environment for this path and one that which motor vehicles are driven?
River Road is a tough problem. It's narrow, it's winding, it's got trees right up to the edge. Very difficult, very dangerous. I like to see people riding bikes, but boy, I wouldn't do it along River Road. There's a bike path along there that the federal government put in all the way up to Double Ditch, but nobody uses it because it went into disrepair. It's not usable as it is. I don't like bike traffic on River Road. There's no way of widening it. We've looked at it. We spent a lot of money repairing it and keeping it up, but it is a scenic road, and I don't want to change that at all. We do have a plan in place to make it another road from Pioneer Park more straight all the way up to Double Ditch, but that'll be wider on section lines, be much better for bike traffic. In the immediate future, boy, I'd stay off of it. It's dangerous, it really is, there's no doubt about it. It scares me every time you come over one of those little hills or make a turn and there's somebody on the bike right there. And they've got their rights, but they're not as big as I am with my four-wheel drive.
Mr. Bittner.
Thank you. River Road and traffic don't mix with bicycles. The notion of trying to improve that road solely for bicycles would be a mistake. The amount of dollars that we would spend, I don't see that it really ever being safe because it's a scenic route, and by that people are driving, looking around and enjoying the view. They're less likely to catch bicycles or to see them. I think that the bike paths are certainly an answer for them, but as far as River Road itself, I don't see Burleigh County spending a whole lot of money on bicycle paths on the road. So.
Mr. Mosier.
I just cannot add anything more to the safety of bicycles going north on River Road. I think the commissioners have hit that very well. But that's a great segue to the other question about additional green space within the county. That goes back to, and I just want to clarify one thing with Commissioner Bittner. I think you and I are talking, I'm talking semantics with a comprehensive plan versus a master land use plan. I'm just getting the two together. But if there is an opportunity if there's an opportunity in the plan to create some green space, and I'll give you an example, Commissioner Bittner worked darn hard to make ATV use available out at the fairgrounds. It does not mean that we can't take some area of land that we're not gonna allow people to build on, extend a bike path, or make it a mountain biking path. It's a quality of life issue. I'm just not a big fan either. I used to ride bike up River Road, and that's why I have gray hair now. Trust me on that. But I think there are things we can do, once again, through that innovative thinking.
Candidates, I would like to thank you for being here tonight. You will now have 1 minute to provide a closing comment. We just ended that last question with Mr. Woodcock, so Mr. Bittner, you may begin. 1 minute for closing comments.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to serve as a Burleigh County Commissioner. Certainly learned a lot. It's amazing how much about government that you don't know as a citizen. I think anybody running for a position like this feels like you can charge on in there and make a whole bunch of changes, and I found that the wheels of government actually turn very slow. Things that you think would be easy to get accomplished end up taking years. We're in the process of a lot of changes here in Burleigh County. We've updated significant things with stormwater management. We're working on the jail situation. We're certainly going to work on social services. Those kind of things require a steady hand at the wheel, and I'm willing to do that, and I would ask the citizens for their vote, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve.
Mr. Mosier.
First off, thanks to the League of Women Voters, and again, Dot, you've been wonderful to deal with this evening. Public service has been ingrained in my life. 32 years in the North Dakota National Guard. I volunteer with the St. Mary's Carnival. I'm a member of the Elks, a lot of community service. I believe I would be able to use my leadership skills over the next 4 years to help this county grow in a structured and sequential manner. Plans equal directions. I agree with Commissioner Bittner that sometimes you just can't get things done in the morass of bureaucracy, as I talked about earlier. But if you let me start driving an engine, I'll start pulling as hard as a tugboat pulling a big old steamship. My leadership skills are tuned, and I will make decisions for the betterment of this county to deliver the effective, efficient, and timely services that these constituents deserve. Once again, it comes down to people with plans win, work equals success. And I just hope that the folks will consider me very strongly and vote for me in this next election.
And Mr. Woodcox.
Thank you. Thank you for the League of Women Voters, too, for putting this on. I've served Burleigh County for the last 12 years, and I'm a hardworking commissioner. I answer all my phone calls. I answer all my emails. I follow up on any complaints, and I do the best job I possibly can. Burleigh County is on a real threshold of expansion, of new problems that we have not dealt with before. We've got a lot of projects that we haven't finished, and we've got a lot of flood-related problems, jail problems, crime problems, a new judge coming, and probably a new courthouse. All of that, not a new courthouse, a new courtroom. All of that takes leadership and it takes experience, and I've been here long enough to get that experience, and it does take a long time to learn how the government works. I've managed a business for 40, 50 years, and it's easy to make a decision when you're a business owner. It's not easy to make it when you're a public servant. It takes committee meetings and committee meetings. It's frustrating very much at times, but I've done 12 years of it, and I want to serve one more term, and I certainly want to ask for your vote.
With that, I'd like to thank the Bismarck Tribune, Dakota Media Access, and the volunteers from the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. Thank you to the viewers at home and those in the audience tonight for taking time to learn more about the candidates and the issues. This program will play several times on Government Access Cable Channel 2 and will be available for viewing at www.freetv.org in the days leading up to the November 6th election. Before we close this candidate forum, I want to remind you that voting in North Dakota is very simple, and you can find voting information at your county auditor's office and from the office of the North Dakota Secretary of State. Thank you all and good night.
Thank you, sir.
If you enjoyed this program, would like to see it again, or send the link to your friends, it's available at freetv.org.